Welcome to the podcast of the Composition and Music Theory Department of the Karol Szymanowski Music Academy in Katowice.
Welcome, Yitzhak Yedid, to Szymanowski Radio, the podcast of the Katowice Music Academy. You have been our guest recently in November with your piece Kadosh, Kadosh and Cursed. But I'd like to start with you telling us something about you. You're a composer, but how did you become a composer?
Great to be here, Roman. Yes, I had a great visit at Katowice. I was not intended to be a composer. It just happened. I guess I am firstly a musician and a performer, a pianist. And when I was a student at the academy in Jerusalem, back then it used to call the Rubin Academy in Jerusalem, I was entering the course of piano performance. I can actually share with you before that Western music was not the music I grew up on. I was mostly doing chanting of liturgical Jewish music. But my mom, she insisted that all of the siblings will learn an instrument. She wanted like a Western instrument. So for me, it was the piano. And when I went to the academy, I was practicing the piano repertoire. I did some etudes, and in the other room, people playing classical Arabic music, and my ear tuned to what they do, and I wanted to be to do what they do. I recognize the system that they do. But to answer your question, I became a composer. Then I started basically performing, and I did a lot of music for improvising musicians, and people start out for them. That's how it started. And then I received, I like to call it the commission, but it was commission without a pay at the beginning, and another commission, but it was very pleasant. I felt very flattered that the people, very good, performers want to play my music. And there was a piece for flute, and there was a piece for cello, and there was a trio, and more. And then I started liking it. And then I thought, well, I will write to, and I started choosing the players. And as I said before, I had my own ensemble. I call it the Yedid ensemble, and that ensemble was to play my original music, but I wanted to be the pianist. So back then I was a better pianist than I am today because I was practicing more. And it was interesting. It was interesting because I basically, which is what composers do, I wrote some fully notated music, and some I just said to the player, just improvise. Some free improvisation, some almost never chordal jazz style improvisation. It was all either free improvisation or on some modes or structures. So that's how I became a composer.
That's pointing us a bit into one of the directions I wanted to ask more precisely. I've read some text on your website, some text that you wrote, and there is, I think it's a quote. I don't remember the person who wrote that or said that about composition and performers being separated. That being not the normal or the natural order, and that improvisation is bringing it in a way together what belongs together. So that's the point where it started for you, understand? Yes.
Yes, because I think the view in non-European music or for improvisers that the improviser composing in a real time, and the improviser compose in a traditional music, liturgical Arabic or not liturgical Arabic music. There are rules. So, for example, the taksim, which is the beginning of the piece, the improviser or the composer or the creator, all of which would be correct, start with the scale of the piece and change the modes according to rules, change it to other modes, neighboring modes, and then coming back to the original mode. So yeah, there's no a separation between the performer and the composer. I would say also in the music that I grew up at synagogue, also the cantor always improvising. There are also set of rules or set of modes of areas that the composer needs to be at, but nonetheless, every time it sounds different. Essence of composing in real time. And I love that. I think it's quite challenging to bring that feel of improvisation into notated music. And this is one thing that I still am trying to bring in my more composed music.
That is one thing I observed when I saw your catalog of works. You have two groups of works, Group A and Group B. Group A being aimed for Western classical trained musicians, and Group B being for people that are trained also in this kind of music, but not only, that have experience in Arab music, in Jewish musics. Maybe you could tell us more about these two groups and how this idea started. I find it very interesting and fascinating that they have these two groups, because, well, obviously it would be problematic, for example, to find in Poland people to perform pieces of Group B. Actually, I have composed a piece based on an Arab song, variations on this song, and I gave it to some musicians, and they said, "Well, it's nice, but we don't feel comfortable with this Arab scale and this a bit of it is notated, but it is in a bit of an improvisatory style, and they didn't feel comfortable with it." So how did this idea start? I think it's very practical that you have these two groups, but well, tell us more about it, please.
I'll be honest with you. I'm still questioning myself if that was the right way to put it, Group A and B. But this is how it is. It's because when I work with improvising musicians and with musicians that I individually picked, I knew their skills, and there was a little bit easy to communicate with them about what I wanted to get in the sound, because I picked them up especially for a project, and I knew that they know the rules in the improvised music, or when talking about classical Arabic music, in makamat. And I give you a specific example. So the quarter tones. If I'd ask Western art practice players to play a quarter tone, then the player will try to play exactly a quarter tone down or up. Mostly I would ask down. But if you ask a musician which has an experience in performing traditional music, then that quarter tone would text. Depending, if you go up, it might be a little bit less than a quarter tone, or if you go down, so it all depends. So that's just one example, but it started when I writing for large ensemble, and then I realized that I'm writing for players that they might have experience in the music that I'm referring to, or the music that I'm taking inspiration by, but I can't count on it. I need to be clearer in my notation. So somehow it's easy for me when I write music for small ensemble, chamber music, then and especially if I play the piano, then I just tell them, hey, I just want you to do so and so, and just make it a little bit, and you can change it on the spot, because it's like in some sections, the sections that contain improvisations, or that section that not contain improvisation, but it's like from improvisation. But if I write an orchestral piece and I'm not there, but I still want it to sound like what I hear, I have to find different methods of notation to make it. That's why I make this division. And I have to say that I have many works, at least 9 large scale compositions that are all partially notated music, partially improvised music. They're all released on Challenge Records from the Netherlands, but I never released the scores, because the scores also, it's for Group B musicians, where I expect them to have some understanding, and I also was part of the ensemble, and I don't know, maybe one day I'll publish it, but that's the division, just to make it more, get the result I wanted in one way, with players that I can just tell them, okay, play like that player, or play like that sound, or other players that I don't anticipate. I can give you another example. The heterophonic texture. There are heterophonic textures, something you can find in many traditions. It's not unique to the tradition where I'm taking inspiration from. A heterophonic texture, also in jazz, also in Eastern European music. But what it is essentially is there is monophonic melody, and there are players play that melodies with some variations. So if it would be, just to give an example, if it would be jazz music, then one would do a little bit of a gliss to a note, another would do an ornament, and another player would do something else. So another different octave. Actually, another player might decide it for himself or herself to just play the interval instead. And so that creates the texture. But in the texture I was referring in many of my works, which is the texture from of people who are praying, davening, or praying in synagogue. That's a little bit harder, because when you analyze the texture, there's a lot of changes in the textures, and bear in mind that people who are performing it right at its original form, say at synagogue, they are not what we call professional musicians and not trained. But would it be better to replace them with professional? The answer probably not, because it is what it is. That's what it is. That's the texture. It's unique because of the uniqueness of the situation. So you get some people gathering, and there is a monophonic melody, and also the people who are gathering there, they are not just for the music, they also have another purpose to it's a prayer for God. So that's also another aspect. So it's all coming together, and if you analyze it, you find that in some cases it's out of tune, and a bunch of 50 individuals, right, and few of them are out of tune. That's the texture, and it sounds, that's what it is, and it sounds good. It's just a texture. So how would you bring it to the classical stage when you have 40 string instruments? You're gonna say, hey, you there, cellist, I want you just to play a little bit out of tune. They're gonna look at you like you're crazy. I'll give you a more specific example. Actually, maybe that one can understand. If you listen to orchestras of, do you know, there's the great Egyptian singer Kulthum.
Yes, I know
And
that.
you listen to, or you watch the recording of the ensemble, and sometimes there are a few players, few violins, or sometimes it's with orchestra, and you see the bowing down, not the same bowing. It's not the same bowing. So that's something you can do actually with an orchestra. You can just to bring the structure. You can tell that not the same bowing. You go up, one down, and that's already creating the some kind of a unique texture. But so that's a challenge how to bring it. And in some cases, I was literally writing. In other cases, I just wrote, listen to that recording here and there, and just take inspiration. And I did it in my string quartet, Vision, Fantasies, and Dances. I had a few sections. I just told the players, this is the texture that I want. Listen to it and just imitate it. And they did quite well. They added some tremolos, some I wrote also for players ad lib, a vib, tremolo, but never together. Each one is individually. So I wrote the elements that I want them to improvise. So it's very specific. Playing the same melody again, but each one needs to play it slightly different.
But I think this has an attraction with not performing a piece once, but several times, because every time it will sound, well, if you play Mozart, every time it's a bit different. But if you have improvisatory elements in it, then one time you play the vibrato, one time you don't play the vibrato. I think that has also a separate quality or an additive quality to the music, that it's every time it's the same, but it's not the same, and the not the same is more. It's far more than in Mozart or Beethoven or Western classical music. I mean, but of course it's not that different than in classical improvisation, because if you improvise every time, it's totally different. But you have it's like improvisation is in the mid in the midway between the performer and street composition. And what do you do? It sounds a bit like being in between improvisation and composition. At least what you speak if you speak about the group B pieces, the more improvisatory and not Western classically pieces.
Well, it's to do with the aesthetics, and the aesthetics. That's what I was talking about. So, if the performers understand that, or not understand, familiar with that aesthetic, it's easier. And look, on the classical stage, there are a few things that player would not normally do. As I said, it's not in the tradition for example, to play different bow there, then it's all that's we try to get the strings. All string one sounds like the goal, that they sound same vibrato, same, always like one instrument. That's the goal. So that's the aesthetic of the music of classical music, but it's not the aesthetic of the music that I'm referring to. So that's again how I bring it to the classical stage, because that's where I'm performing my music. But that, you know, for a composer, the most challenging thing is to find the aesthetics that the composer is referring to, and to elaborate on it. And maybe I had here a shortcut because I was coming from not from Western art practice, so I had some advantage, but I could have said, well, that doesn't fit. But then I said, well, let's try to merge them. Of course, I'm not the first one such thing, or intercultural music, or ethnic, or multi-ethnic music, but I was trying to do it in a unique way.
Well, I must admit, I envy you, not you, but in general, people who are from not from the West, from Europe, or from the United States, or from Australia, born in Australia, it's kind of like that. That you have been born into also another musical tradition, because I think you will have been exposed to Western music as well, but you
Yes.
are in a way like you're bilingual, one might say, in music, Western classical. Correct. And well, let's say Arab Makam music style. You are bilingual, and I envy that, because we were talking. You were talking before about microtones. That's another topic I wanted to ask you about, because I remember a conversation. That's maybe the reason I am interested in this whole topic. In Krakow, there was a Syrian composer, or a composer from Syria. He was living a long time in Poland already, but he was having a lecture about quarter tones or microtones. And the first thing that he said is that in his opinion, if I remember, he said something like this European way of approaching quarter tones is a way stupid, and it's absolutely not understanding how quarter tones or microtonality works in the Middle Eastern music. That it's what you said before. It's not really quarter tones, and there are not even quarter tone steps, because there are whole tone steps, semitone steps, and 3/4 tone steps, and 1.5 tone steps.
Correct.
So that's the material. And what is also fascinating, that it differs, of course, from the specific culture. Like people from Iran would sing differently, people from Syria would sing differently, people from Morocco would sing differently, and from Turkey as well. So that's another tradition that's connected with Makam.
Well, quarter tones is you can treat it as you can have 24 quarter tones, or you can treat quarter tones or 3/4 tones as part of a model system, and that's the difference. And in my own music, what I do both. In some cases, I have quarter tones as part of the makam, but I also don't like that too much, because that sounds a little bit too, I don't know, too traditional, or too much of a quotation. So I also like to use quarter tones, per se quarter tones, as part of a scale not related to makamat. But that is true, that and it's fascinating that the practice of performing makamat is different from one country and another country. It is to some extent the accent, but the way or the choices of the makamat. So I mean, that's another level up when I try to bring it to the Western classical stage. But in my own music, it's not always quotation of Makamat. I don't take that as a chunk. I just take a small thing, or being influenced, or ornamentation from the Makamat. Yeah, but what you said before about the language that I have, bilingual, that's true. But I think every composer, every performer, every musician has something. So one is coming from a place that is very unique. Another one's coming from a situation that you grew up, which is very unique. I don't know, something happened to the mother, something happened to the father.
Well, that's
Another.
a personal situation. What I mean is that, for example, for me, I grew up in Germany, and I grew up with German and Polish folk music, and so most German. My wife is laughing about it a bit when I sing it to my kids. That most German songs, they sound more or less the same. They're all in major mode, almost are in major mode. The melodies are very similar sometimes. And it's very related to the Western classical music. It's very, very close. And that's what I meant with you, that you have also a very far away, like maybe it's the bilinguality that you have is like people speaking languages from different groups, not like Spanish and Catalonian, which are very similar, for example.
Yes. I hear, I agree with you totally, but I was trying to bring it in from another angle, saying, well, personally, yes, that's why, luckily, that I'm not, that I'm bringing it together. So I think composer must be truthful to where they are from, and that, in my case, it's the language that I bring. From other composers, it could be something not related to music tradition. It could be related to something else and make them very, very unique composers. So so if a composer is truthful, then the music, I hope my music is convincing, but that's the point. And I heard it from other composers, so it's not unique to me. I just had a few days George Benjamin talking about his idea of whether or not he likes the audience to likes his music, whether he related that when he writes, and he said that of course he does, of course he wants to communicate, but first he's trying to be truthful, and I relate to that again. So if you're truthful, then he will communicate.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think if you want really to be truthful, you write. If you are honest, you write music for yourself, or you try to. It's another composer that I spoke to, Philippe Manoury. He I don't know if it was in the interview I had with him or in another interview. He said something about becoming a composer, not being entirely satisfied with the music that exists. So it's fantastic. Bach, Beethoven, the big names of the traditions. And he wasn't meaning it like he's being better. Absolutely not like that. But feeling a miss maybe, and trying to fill out the miss. And I think that's it. What I try to do with my music, what you probably try to do with your music, to write music that you want to hear yourself, and then hope, like this was Lutosławski saying that, and he strongly believes that he writing music for himself, but there will be people who have a similar view in music, or a similar I don't have the English word there. their antennas are able to
Yes,
have the
yes,
same to catch the same music.
yes. I connect to that totally. I think the role of a composer is to bring something new. That's what it is, and for me, it means also experimenting. Every piece is an experimentation. Every work that I do, I try to find something new. But in a way, this is of itself is a method, because if you listen to music of the great composers in the past, they always worked on similar orchestration. So they use the same method of. That's why if you listen to Mozart, you say, "Hey, that's Mozart," because it's oh, that's Bach. It's the method that they used. And but there's now expectation to experiment or to bring something new on each and every piece that the composer write. And this is why I like to listen to different composers. Of course, I'm referring to composers who have that similar approach to mine, because there are also some composers that write music as a job, and I don't see that at all, because I mean they do it as a job. You listen that they're trying to sell it, so it needs to be first, and I don't do it at all, because if I have to do something that would sell and will talk to the majority of people, then I wouldn't be able to experiment. And then I was thinking to myself, what's the point of doing it? I certainly don't do it for the money, because if if I get a commission and you divide it, you check the hour, you it will come very little money. So certainly I don't do it for the money. I do it because I want to do it, and that's really the drive that I have. But yeah, completely connected to what you said before. It's the role of the composer is to bring something new, to comment on current issues in different ways. So some composers, they want to be political. They advocate for something, and that's the pieces is for me. I find it hard to this is just my own personality. I hear people from the left wing politics, and I say 100%, 100%. I totally agree. And then I hear people from the right wing politics, and I said, "There's a point here. Yes, yes. Of course, I'm a little bit more. Doesn't matter now. Let's not talk about that. But politics. But I do comment on current events. In my piece for orchestra called "Delusions of War." This is an anti-war piece, or actually the piece that been played at Katowice last November is 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 a is a commentary piece, or testimonial piece, if you want, about the religious aspect of the conflict between the Israelis and Palestinians, Temple Mount in Jerusalem, because a lot of the conflict arises from the religious thing. And this is where I had in my piece, without saying, again, because I don't know who is right, who is wrong, or maybe I do know, I have my own thinking, but I don't want to get into it. But I can bring it, and people can think for themselves. So some people would think, oh, well, at such a place of worshiping, should there be crisis there? And that's a good question. Yeah, that I like that the question to come up. And some people, I heard from some people saying, well, the religious is bringing all the problems. And I said to them, well, I don't totally agree to that, but interesting, let's talk about it. Or maybe there are other people, or maybe then maybe that shouldn't be. But that's the point. So the music, the role as a composer is to comment. Is to, if the composer feel like is to comment on or to bring an opinion or to advocate for something.
Yes, I agree with you. We are here at a topic that's in a kind bothering me, or I have questions about it a lot. The politicalness of music in general. I once had this thinking. It was maybe influenced a bit by a review of a festival I was attending, and I had also a piece performed at this festival. And basically, the review was that the compositions that are performed at this festival, they are totally disconnected with the state of the world. They are in their own world, in their own bubble. And I was thinking about this a lot, like the role of the composer, if he should be political, maybe in a more direct way. And I had a tendency to agree with this, that the composer should, being in a kind of public person, even if he's public person only in his own small town or something like that, but that he should take a stand, that he should have an opinion, or have that he has a responsibility for more than himself. But I'm not sure anymore about that. Also because I was thinking, well, that it's nice if this piece is so directly political in a way that I agree with. But what if there is a composer like Wagner, for example? I adore his music. I think it's a fantastic artist. But well, his views, no, absolutely, I can't agree with them. I understand where they come from, where they're situated in the 19th century. It's important to have this background that like half of Europe was anti-Semitic then. It's not a defense for him, but it helps understand it. It's a big difference to being anti-Semitic after the Holocaust, for example. Yeah.
Yes.
It was always bad, but after something like that happened, it's always even worse. But he was political, and I don't agree with his politicalness. So there is this problem with it, and there is also something. And I thought about we spoke about that when you were in Katowice, of course, as well. I think I asked about that during your lecture at the Music Academy. That I think your work, like Kadosh, it is political, but it's not political in a direct sense. You don't give a direct answer. It's more a commentary. It's a question. It's an observation. It's not saying this is good, this is bad. Like maybe you would say the violence is bad, of course, but it's not. You're not taking sides, and I think there is a wiseness in that. And maybe you could comment your views on this topic. You were speaking about that before a bit, but say more about that.
Well, in some of my works, I commented about political and current events that happen globally. It's just because I felt like, and I felt that that would, make a difference, or I felt like that's what I need to do. But about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I did do. It's a choice to make a political comment, because there's so many comments around. See, my social media feeds are full with opinions. I get videos from people from that side and from people from the other side. I do have an opinion. I do have actually lately a stronger opinion than I had before. And but there's so much coming on, and there's no need. I'm not that a figure But I think that music brings something that words cannot bring. So there's so many words that were written about the conflicts in general and about the place where I'm coming from, Israel, and more specifically Jerusalem. And so many opinions and suggestions and analyses and who is right, who is wrong, who came first, who is religious, who is not, what should we do, who is so. And but the music is has something we can of course relate to it. It's something magical that can bring people. Firstly, it can bring people together, and we know that. And I'm not taking claims that I said that. Actually, Daniel Barenboim talks a lot about music, about borders. He said that in his proms concert that, of course, we know that I can play anyone's music and you can play anyone's music. There's no, I cannot blame anyone from taking my property if someone is playing my music. So in a way, yes, the music. So that's an advantage in the language of music. And for me, in Kadosh Kadosh and Kes, it was the first time, actually, the first piece, sort of, that I my testimony. Okay, I am commenting on the situation because it's so obvious. I'm commenting Kadosh Kadosh and Kes, inspired by the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. What are you talking about? Of course, and in my liner notes, I wrote that I relate to it. So of course, I'm relating to it. And some people want to say, what do you mean? But then when you read the program notes, you hear that that in that piece, first time, as I said, I choose to almost take a picture, like image, of what happened at the Temple Mount on a period of time that I wrote the piece. So it's a testimonial piece or commentary piece. And for the listeners, what it does, you listen to the music. In some cases, maybe, I don't know, you need to ask the listeners, but this is what I think. Maybe the listener will think, oh, that relates to that side. Oh, that's the other side. But is that's and then it blends together. So there is an underlying message, actually, that maybe that there is a coexistence. Maybe that God is, if there is a God, if you believe, if one believes, I believe there is a God. If one believes there is a God, then do God want us to do what we do? So just think about it. And I wrote in the program notes that we are like, the cave people from Plato. Okay, we all like were born, and in that piece, I was trying to just get the people to see and make their own opinion without spoon feeding them or telling them what to do. You should do that. You should make peace. You should that should withdraw from here. Let's all of this. No, I was not part of it. And um, I heard from a fellow composer in Israel, Daniel, said that we composers, we always in love with our. So this is one of my recent works, so I'm still in love with that work. So I can say that I feel that I did well in that. May I say, in that perspective of because it's a right choice, because I cannot not comment on it at my. I feel like that I
You
have
feel a
to
need,
make,
and then a need
and it's
to.
something that I do. And then it needs to be right, because I'm trying to be politically correct, because I want to do the right thing for me. And that was the right thing, to do a commentary work, a testimonial work. um I'll give you a specific example of how I did that. So the first part in Kadosh Kadosh in Kes is very dramatic, very energetic, very full on, very almost aggressive. There's some section that's some and in the second part it's completely different. There is a melodic line. I love melodic lines, by the way. We can talk about that as well. There's a melodic line, a prayer like that the piano play or pray. I don't want to treat it as a prayer. But there is the disturbance, the whole ensemble disturbing this player, this prayer.
Display and prayer.
Yes, correct, exactly right. And they are the ensemble. They are covering it, and for the listener, you want to hear the piano because the piano is beautiful. What the piano is chanting is beautiful, and it's like I remember myself listening to rehearsal in concerts. Almost felt like stop the whole ensemble, just the piano. I want to hear more of the piano. And I remember one conductor said to me, "Can we hear more of the piano? Can we hear more of the piano? Can you bring the piano out more? Can we bring the piano more? Because you hear it. It's so delicate. It's so simple playing. It's just a unison of Oriental melody." And I don't know to which side this melody belongs. Maybe it's maybe it's mutual prayer, but yeah. So that's how
I think that that's also interesting in relation to your own biography. That most people would associate Jewish music with Hasidic music or Sephardic music, but your own Jewish music, it's very closely related to it's Arab music basically, yeah, the bakashot.
I'll tell you about that. That's very interesting.
If I understood it correctly, please correct me.
I'll tell you. I will. And I had it wrongly at the beginning. I used to call the music of Piyutim, of Bakashot, what we call the music of the Arab Jews, Arabic influenced Jewish music. And I was corrected by some scholars. They said to me, "No, you're wrong. There is secular Arabic music, and there is a liturgical Arabic music. And the liturgical Arabic music could be Muslim. No, it could be. It is. There's some Muslim music related to, and there's Jewish music. So it's Arabic music. It's Arabic music, but it's Jewish music as well. And that's interesting because you're right.
Well, Arabs can be Jews and Christians. Well, Arab can be Jews and Christians. Correct. They don't need to be Muslims.
Exactly right. Yes, also Christian. Yes, exactly right. Sorry, that is correct. Yes, it could be all of the above. It could be anything, but it was the development of Arabic music, classical Arabic music as we know it now, was done also in Arab countries such as in Iraq, and back then it was not Syria, it was Aleppo and all this area, developed by as well as Muslims at the same time. So there is a lot of correspondence. There are some research about that. Very, very interesting how the music at synagogue was influenced by the music that the Muslims sang at the mosque. They brought it what they had outside, and probably vice versa. So it's very interesting. Also, you are correct. There are some Jews from Arab countries. There are Aleppo, what is Turkey now, and North Africa, that they are descendants of Sephardim. They are Sephardi. So what it means, they are the Jews who lived in Spain and Portugal before the Spanish Inquisition, 500 and something years ago. My family they are not descendants of the Sephardim. They are over 2,000 years in what is now Syria. Syria is a new country, as well as Israel, as well as Lebanon, as well as Jordan. And they lived there for many years. So yeah, so it's not the Sephardic music, it's Arabic music.
Yes, exactly. What is also, I think this tells or could tell a lot, like that you share it. Like Muslims, I don't know about Christians, but probably the same. Muslims, Christians, and Jews, they share the same music. So there is a coexistence there. It's and there was maybe, like, I think that's this big conflict that is now. It's a recent conflict. It's not a conflict that were. This I think I'm not so aware what was 500 years ago. I think 500 years ago, the more problematic people for Jews were the Spanish Catholics that threw the Jews out,
Yes,
or
correct.
forced them to convert. Then
Well,
the Arabs in Spain before, they were more tolerant than they are now, basically.
Yeah. Well,
The
without
Muslim
getting
Arabs,
into
I should
something
say.
that, yes, well, the Jews suffered from persecution for many years, mostly by Christianity, and also by Muslims. So my ancestors from Arabs, Muslim Arab from persecution. That's a known thing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. But there was coexistence. Yeah, there were times that they lived well together, and there times that they didn't.
I just thought about this music, this common shared music. It's also, it maybe is a ray of hope in all this mess. No.
No. Absolutely, yes. It is a way of hope. In some of my pieces, that's exactly what I try to find. I try to find what can work together. So I bring the tension, but I bring also, in some cases, the resolution. Because music is about tension and resolution. Again, if you listen to the recitation of Quran, and it uses similar model system of Makamat. And when you bring it together, and that shows maybe that we can coexist, we can work together. So maybe that's something I'm trying to find. But yes, as we said before, there's no boundaries and there are no borders in music, and that's good. So you bring them together and they work together. That's the goal. If it works, then for life this could also work.
Yes, I think it's like I said. I think it's rays of hopes, or islands, little islands. Like also the project of Daniel Barenboim, the West Eastern Divan Orchestra. I know people that played in this orchestra that brought Jews and Muslims and Christians from the region or the regions together, and one can only hope that there are more people that will do or will do similar things in the future.
Yes, the message is great. I completely connect to
And
it.
it also,
That
I think this is maybe the politicalness I was referring to earlier, that doing something like that, it's not about saying you are right, you are wrong, but it's about giving hope. And this reminds me of another composer, Peter Vasks. He was speaking a lot about this being important for him. that he saw his music also like he saw an obligation. That what was I was questioning before, but he felt this obligation, this true obligation to his music to give hope and strength to the people, which is also in a way a political thing, political in a positive thing,
Yes,
because a lot of times people think about politicalness being only about like right wing against left wing, Jews against Arabs, and conflicts. But it's also
yes,
politicalness in a way. It's from the word polis, city. It's about a public thing, not personal,
yes,
but about a common interest.
yes. But may I say that in some of my recent compositions, unfortunately, because I was also sort of documenting what I see, what I feel, many people comment that there's no much hope. I didn't try to make something that is not happening. I hope there is a hope. I want it. I want hope. It has come to me. If you remember, I gave the talk at the conservatorium in Katowice. There's one student who asked me very, very confronting but good question. He said to me, "You're such a nice person. I mean, and your music is very dramatic and very depressing. How does that connect?"
And violent. And violent.
And violent. And I'm still thinking about an answer for that. But again, I just in some of my recent works, Kadosh, Delusions of War, and also the piano concerto, those pieces are commenting to current events, and there's a lot of violence, and I was not something that maybe I wanted to bring because I wanted to make I wanted to. It just happened. It was the natural thing to happen. So yes, I hope there's hope. I don't know. I'll leave it to others. I'll leave it to others. I do. So I do what I feel, and I'm trying to be truthful to what I feel when I compose. And as I said, that should apply for, for any composer. And what comes. Maybe if it will survive, then musicologists will look at it if I'm lucky, or maybe it will just disappear with so many other works. But I did my duty.
Let me just add, I wasn't saying that it's our obligation. I just said that Vasks feels this obligation to give hope with his music. What you do with your music, it's your own business, and I understand. I relate absolutely to
Yeah,
what you say, that you music, you're a nice person, and really that. And your music, I had the same impression. It's very different than what you appear to be, but it's also like the conflicts that you have experienced, that you are experienced, that you are observing, that are of course a turbulence for you and for your life. And I think
turbulence.
it's
Yes.
natural to have that your music reflects that. And if the conflict is intensifying, maybe it's natural that your music is in this. It's getting maybe more violent or more expressive. Yeah.
I hope it won't be more. Look, as I said, I'm not trying per se to make it, dramatic, or it's just what comes. Um, it reminds me that people talked about music that was written after Second World War. As people ask, can you write happy music after that time? Or and then people ask back then, can you write tonal music after that time? And I don't know. It just what comes out for me. Um, I I wrote a couple of nice, I don't know, nice sort of compassion nigun I have, but yeah, that's correct. when I get into when I dip into the music of the feelings, then it's lately, unfortunately, it's getting very vulgary and very dramatic, almost violent.
To end maybe with a with a more positive direction. I see behind you all the time. I see the paintings, which contrast with our topic of the last minutes. I see the paintings of your children, and I wanted to ask you if this being a father changed your way of being an artist or being a composer in a way. I know the reason I ask about it. I know some female composers. They talk about how being a mother changed it, but I don't have seen or experienced male composers speaking about being a father and if that changed it. I have experienced it myself, but I'm very curious how it's for others. So I see the pictures and I have to ask about that.
Yes, of course it did. I mean, we're all changing all the time, and there's such a, being a father is an important job. But I think, as a composer, I communicate with people, and as a father, I communicate as well with my children, and I found it very engaging and very interesting to hear comments from my own children, and even more often than to hear it from others. Also, I found that children in general, they are more open to new music. But as for my own children, being a father, there is the thing that father is, I like to play my children my music, and to hear what they feel about that. So maybe that could change, but it's not that my music became softer
I
because of
wasn't thinking
my
about that exactly. Like
love
for
to.
for me, it's not that my music
I know you
especially
didn't.
changed it. What changed is my way, is my approach to composing. In a way more direct. I don't think so much. I write more. that's that's my
That's
reaction. I
interesting.
have less time, so I have to write and time
Well,
to reflect.
beside of less time, I think being a father and being having a father to children that can comment and have an opinion about music, um, it's another form of communication for me. Another I communicate with the audience, but also communicate with the people I'm close to, my children, my family, and getting feedback from them. I found it very elaborate.
Sure, sure. Maybe we could end with you recommending us 3 or 4 pieces that you are, I don't know, that you like, especially of your own pieces, of course, or that you are proud of, that are maybe representative of your work, of your style, that people who listen to this
Thank you.
podcast
Yes,
might want to listen afterwards.
sure. So I will mention the three from three sort of different periods of me. So the first one is the piece that I'm mostly in love with. That's Kadosh Kadosh in Cares. That's the piece for 14 players commenting on the current events in Israel and inspired by the scenes from the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. The second piece is a piece that I wrote that it's not bringing east and west together, and it's called Yedid Bach. Yeah, and I do Y-E, and then did Bach. So it means I did Bach. And it's for I on duet. And I quote from the Well-Tempered Clavier and combine it with my own music. I was inspired in that work by the by Gier Kurtag, and moreover, with Kurtag performing with his wife Martha, that now passed away, excerpts of his adaptation of Bach and his own music, some amazing videos of the couple playing together. So that's called Yedid Bach. It's on YouTube. All of the pieces that I'm mentioning now, they're on YouTube. And yeah, that was an interesting way. I took segments, or it's not so much adaptation. There was one section that I did adaptation of a full section of Bach. And back then, even I was struggling whether or not I can change a key of the key is so important, and I was struggling how would people react to that. But there was mostly segments from the Well-Tempered Clavier coming together with new music. The third piece is from 2003, and it's a trio that I wrote for clarinet, double bass, and piano. And it's inspired by the allegory of the cave. And I actually notated, partially improvised. And I performed that piece many, many times also in Europe. And I truly enjoy to play it on the piano. Also, that reminds me of my longtime performer that I collaborated with her, Ora Boasson Chorev. She passed away from cancer, unfortunately. And yeah, but that piece is bringing that time that I worked with improvising musicians. So three
different pieces from different times. That's nice. Thank you so much. And it was a joy to talk to you. Hope to see you again sometime here in Katowice, somewhere in Europe. And well, I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Szymanowski Radio. Please give us a like and subscribe to our channel if you are interested in similar talks about music. Please contact us for all questions and other feedback through our mail, podcast@am.katowice.pl, or through our Instagram account, Szymanowski Radio. Stay tuned!